Hello and good evening. Shir Likutey Moharan, Torah Chaf Beis, number 22. We started by saying, Rabbeinu bringing this pasuk from the fifth parak of Sefer Tzniusa. We explained the Sefer Tzniusa, the concealed book, is a Sefer Kabbalah, which was written by Yaakov Avinu. And the 5 chapters of Sefer Tzniusa are for Kabbalah, for the Zohar, for the Kisvei Harizal, is like the Mishnah is of the Gemara. They're like the basics that everything rests on. That's the basics. Everything else is, compounded on top of that. And so we said that it says in the 5th parak of Pirkei Tzniusa that there is on the first 2 words of the Torah, Bereshis bara. This is dealing with two different levels of the upper Sefirot. We have Bereshis, which denotes the level of Chochmah, as we say, Bereshis Chochmah. Then we have the level of Zer Anpin, which is already the transmission from the Chochmah Bin Adas all the way to the Malchus. So there is, in between them, there is a transmission, which is called the 6th Sefirot, which is called Zer Anpin. The Chochmah is totally concealed. The Zer Anpin is sometimes concealed, sometimes not concealed. When Am Yisrael does what Kadosh Baruch Hu wants, it is exposed. When Am Yisrael does not, then it's concealed. And these 2 levels are presented in the first 2 words of Bereshis. It says Bereshis and Bara. So it says Bereshis. The says Bereshis is Maimah. It's a whole complete Maimah. Bara is Chatzi Maimah, is half a saying. Take the word Bereshis, the half of it, it's 6 letters. This first 3 letters is Bara, Beis Reish An. So Bara is Chatzi Maimah, that's half a Maimah. That's one synonym, as it were, to Chochmah and Zer Anpin. We have Maimer, which talks about Chochmah. That's a synonym for Chochmah, a euphemism for Chochmah. And you have Chatzi Maimer, which is a euphemism for Zer Anpin, the transmission. Av v'ben, another synonym, is a father and a son. The father is the Chochmah, and the son is the Zer Anpin. Satin v'galia, concealed and exposed. Again, concealed is the Chochmah, Galia is the Zer Anpin. Eden Eloah, the Sosim v'Gonis. We have the supernal Eden, which is totally concealed. That's another form of expressing the same Metzias. And Eden Tata, that's the lower Eden. By the way, every single thing, I heard something very nice, that every single thing that exists in upper worlds exists also in this world, is a version thereof. I heard it from a Chabad Chassid, that he said that Olam Haba also has an embassy in Olam Hazeh. It also has an expression in Olam Hazeh, and that's Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash is that's why in Beis Hamikdash, I guess this is why the Aron doesn't take any space at all, and all the miracles that happened in Beis Hamikdash, that the people were standing very crowded on Yom Kippur. And when they bowed down and confessed the Chataim, each one was distant from his friend, so this friend wouldn't hear him. So you see that nature basically leaves the Beis Hamikdash in the. So nevertheless, we have an Eden Eloah, we have the supernal Eden. Eden is the source. We said that there are 3 steps. There's Eden, then there's Nahar, there is the river that comes out of Eden. If you remember the story of Bereshis, it says, in a Vena Yoitzim Eden, and a river comes out of Eden, Vishkaita Gan, and watered the garden. This is Gan Eden. So Gan is the receptacle. Gan is where the neshamas are growing. Gan is the malchus. Gan is the ultimate. Eden is the source of everything. That's the Mayan. It's the spring, where the water comes out of. The mechanism, the transmission between the source and the final destination is called Nahar. So you have Eden, Nahar, and Gan. This is also Rashi Teivos Oinig, pleasure. Ein, Nun, and Gimel, Oinig. When the order of things go from Eden through Nahar to the Gan properly, this is the pleasure that this world was created for. This world was literally created for pleasure. It's your choice whether you want to enjoy this world or you want to enjoy the next world. I mean, but you see that the thing that the nefesh of a person very naturally pulls him like a magnet is pleasure. It's oinig, and it's not stam. It's not just because it's a Yetzirah. It's only Yetzirah. It's only Yetzirah if it is you want to have the pleasure of this world. In other words, like the Indians, you sell Manhattan for some glass beads. If this is what you want to do, then the quest for oineg is Yetzirah. In Olam Haba, the Eden, Nar, and Gan is the proper way for things to be, because God created the world in order for us to have pleasure. He's our father. He's our father, and he is the quintessential father, obviously. We're not talking about my father or your father. Each one of them being a human being and having, his own issues or whatever it is. So not on every decision where our welfare was at stake and his welfare was at stake, that he always chose our welfare. It's not necessarily so. It's just human beings, that's the way he learned from his father and so forth and so on. But when we're talking about the Kodesh Baruch Hu, obviously all these doesn't apply. Kodesh Baruch Hu is the ultimate father. All he wants is what's best for his children. And what father doesn't want his children to have good? Even when unless he's a psychopath, even a dysfunctional father wants good for his children. Lamalo wants them to be happy, wants them to enjoy, and so forth and so on. So the Kodesh Baruch Hu Kal V'chomer, that he created an entire world for that ultimate pleasure of Eden, Nahar, and Gan. So we said that Eden Eloah, that is totally concealed, is the Chochmah, and this Eden Tator. Then we proceeded to say that you should know that there is a Metzias, there is a reality, which is called Chos, it's called a seal. And then we learned that there's another mitzvah is called a double seal, a seal within a seal, or a seal on top of a seal. So now Rabbeinu goes into this is a Torah that seems to, on the surface, include a lot of different inyanim that supposedly, keep on renewing another detail, another new issue. But truth of the matter, they're all one thing. When you finish the Torah and you realize how the whole thing connects, you realize it's all one thing. So now we're dealing with an overall metzias of choisam and choisam b'soch choisam. There's a seal and there's a seal on top of a seal. So now Rabbeinu says, okay, what does the seal mean? Rabbeinu explains that there is a metzias, that there are those who are called limudei Hashem. These are the those who are, Rabbeinu says, are teaching HaKadosh Baruch Hu keviyachol and give him eitzes. And so what does it mean that giving HaKadosh Baruch Hu give him eitzes? We spoke about it at great length. Well, it doesn't mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu something doesn't know, obviously. So what's the pshat? They're advising HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So and then we said, and we explained that, and then we said that they are those limud Hashem also are called raglayim. They're called legs. So, and it said the reason they're called legs, there are two reasons. One of them is because they give eitzes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Rabbeinu brings a proof that Rashi says when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Come out, you and all the people at your feet, at your legs." Rashi says, "What does it mean at your legs, at your feet?" It says, "Those who follow your advice." So we see that legs and advice, are connected with one another. And then there's another role of these for these limud Hashem, that they need to go and tell Am Yisrael and let them know that they messed up. Every generation has its own, people who are giving over the teichacha, they're giving over the musar. Time of the Nevi'im, it was the Nevi'im, the time of, every generation has those people whose role is to admonish the people and get them back to the straight and narrow. So now we can understand a little bit more what's the pshat that they give eitzes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that they are called limudei Hashem, and what's this Indian of choisam, of a seal over here. What is it doing here? Their role is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is absolute. Am Yisrael is, the heavy tzara. But the thing is that when the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is infringed upon, there are consequences. Nothing can be done. I mean, it's like when you're saying, listen, I want to drop something, and I want the gravitation pull not to work on it. It shouldn't fall on the floor. Come on. And the gravitation force is an absolute only from, the way that we see things. Ultimately, I mean, a plane can get over that, for a while, and if it goes out of gravitation, but nevertheless, I mean, in our level, the gravitational force, go argue with gravity. This is go fight City Hall. I mean, it's Kodesh Baruch Hu's Ratzon is reality. So when somebody does the hepech of the Ratzon of Kodesh Baruch Hu, well, there are consequences. These consequences are called judgment. But this judgment is created in order to sustain the connection between Kodesh Baruch Hu and us, to get us close to Kodesh Baruch Hu, not to send us away from the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So when the deen is proper, the judgment is proper, it's like a good father that is telling his son, you know, what you did was wrong. And the reproach needs to be done in a way that will bring the child closer, not that will push the child away. So the din Torah would be, analogous to this would be that the father will tell the son, you are a tzaddik, you are a neshama, an unbelievable neshama, which is the truth. But you have a yetzer hara. And because of that, you did something, and that something you did is not good. Okay? So for this, you have to be punished. There has to be consequences. It's not because you are bad. It's because what you did, you let the yetzer hara get the better of you. So now, when there is a certain penalty, for the action, there is a result. There's consequence to that reality. So next time, as a child, you'll stay away from it and you won't do it. But what happens is there is also a metzius which is called din achzori, a cruel judgment. A cruel judgment is when you let the klipa, is the sitra achra, plug in to the reality that there is a judgment. Suddenly, from being a constructive criticism, a criticism that is offered in a way that includes the acceptance of the child, at the same time that you disapprove of the action, which has the effect of drawing the child closer. When the yetzer hara plugs into it, what happens is like a father saying to a child, "You're not good. I wish you were never born." No shun. The minute you say something like this to a child, finish. There's nothing more to talk about anymore. Because the child believes that he's no good. And when a child believes that he's not good, being that he's a good boy, he will behave badly. Because how do bad boys behave? They behave badly. Since he's a good boy, he's doing what's expected of him. An unbelievable, twist on reality, but that's the truth. Just excuse me. So the agenda of the Kadosh Baruch Hu in the din Torah, the constructive din, is to bring us closer. The agenda of yetzer hara is to send us away from the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Probably the most important reason why certain decisions, government decisions to do, to do this and not to do this, and some kind of security reasons, whatever it is, they don't advertise it. Why don't they advertise it? Because the minute they advertise it, besides the fact that the enemy will find out of it, the press is going to find out of it. And everybody's going to put his 2 cents into it. And suddenly it's going to become, everybody has, and his uncle have an opinion about it. And the whole thing can go totally haywire. In order to remain, for a specific judgment to remain pure and clean, it has to be concealed. The minute it's exposed, the enemy will know about it, the press will know about it, everybody will have an opinion about it, and suddenly the tail is going to be wagging the head and not the other way around. So basically, you have the reality of Kadosh Baruch Hu was the ultimate metzius. So when we, as his children, do not behave accordingly, there's consequences. But the consequences are supposed to be constructive. So in order for, to be a go-between, the ambassador of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to us, those one who rebuke us. These are, the tzaddikim, and from the other hand, they represent us to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Like HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, go down. Kishiches amcha. Just, let me, just let me go and I will finish them off. What does Moshe do? Moshe says, why are you getting upset with your people? Why are you getting so upset? If you're going to do this, the people of Mitzrayim will be Chilul Hashem. Mitzrayim will say, you know why he killed them? Because he didn't have the koach to bring to Israel. Against Paro, which is one melech. Okay, here he was a hero. But now there are 31 kings. He realized he can't subdue them. So he killed all his nations in the desert. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, you're right. I'm not going to do that. But the thing is, Moshe Rabbeinu is giving an eight to Kadosh Baruch Hu. He says, don't do it because this is what's going to happen. This is called Limud Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu is representing Am Yisrael to Kadosh Baruch Hu. And he's advocating for them. He makes this sin smaller. Why are you getting upset with your people? What do you mean you're getting upset? They made the Egel Azov, they made the golden calf. I shouldn't get upset. No, the point is they are Mecha, they are your nations. They are every Israel is a Chelek Elokam Yimal, his neshama is Mamash Hashem himself. And so they have Yetzirah that got them down. It's the bigger the Kedusha, the bigger is the the tumah, the bigger the challenges. So they fell. And he said, you want to finish them off? And he gave all these arguments. So this is the Limud Hashem. They give eight sister Kodesh Baruch Hu. They teach a Kodesh Baruch Hu. They represent the ambassadors. They are the appeasers. The appeaser Kodesh Baruch Hu. They, they minimize the infringement. So the consequence is not that harsh. That's point number one. Then Moshe Rabbeinu went down to Am Yisrael. And it says, you made a huge sin. In other words, for Am Yisrael, they're making it much, much bigger. So that Am Yisrael will realize, whoa, we really messed up here, and then go back to Kodesh Baruch Hu. In other words, the role of the Limud Hashem that appease Kodesh Baruch Hu and admonish Am Yisrael is to do a reconciliation of expectations from both sides, as it were. That the Kodesh Baruch Hu is not, it's not as bad as it looks. The Am Yisrael, it was huge. So both parties, will be closer to one another, so the connection will be able to continue. But that reality that there is judgment has to be concealed. If it's not concealed, the Sitra Achim will plug into it, and he will use that same argument, that judgment, from being a din Torah to become a din achzorit, becomes a cruel din, a din that pushes people away. Moshe Rabbeinu says, that Am Yisrael, when the Yetzirah control them, and he says, "Besinas Hashem," because Hashem hates us. That's why he took about Mitzrayim. In other words, it's exactly the opposite of what reality is. So therefore, when there's a judgment, it's a very precarious time. The judgment must be protected at all costs. So now we understand what choshen means. Choshen means that the whole thing, that there is judgment, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu, is going to bring a judgment upon Am Yisrael. Now the tzaddik is going to admonish the people. So when it admonishes the people, when the Sitra Achim know now, they'll find out, oh, listen, there's a tzaddik is admonishing because they did wrong. So Rabbeinu says that even when they're giving Musar, even when they're rebuking Am Yisrael, they're still concealing the judgment. They're still keeping the fact that there's judgment concealed from Sitra Achra. This is called a chosam. Chosam is a seal that comes to protect a very precious, very sensitive, situation within. The connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael. It's a very sensitive issue. It can be very easily corrupted, very easily contaminated. So that's why they have to be. That's called chosam. Okay. So now this is what we said, and now and it says these limudei Hashem that marbim shalom ba'olam that they increase the peace in the world, because when there are no judgments, there's peace. It's automatic. So as we said before, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they make it much smaller. I'm sure they make it much bigger. That's the way they maintain, the relationship going on. But when the evil Chas v'Chalil of generation overcomes the power of the chosam to protect, that then the shalom gets corrupted, and there's wars in the world. Then people are driven away from their places of habitat, the refugees, and so forth and so on, especially Am Yisrael going from place to place. So Rabbeinu says, all this is a presentation of the reality of chosam, a single seal. There's a relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael, the go-betweens, the limudei Hashem. They have a job to do, to make sure that the relationship remains, that doesn't get disconnected. And they have to keep everything classified. They have to keep it sealed, because otherwise it will get corrupted. That's one chosam. Now we get to safe base. Now we are learning that there's a chosam above a chosam, on top of a chosam. There is a seal which is above that seal that we spoke of. Because that second seal that we are talking about is a protection for the inner seal. That relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Am Yisrael, that's the core. That's the thing that must be protected at all costs. The seal around it is not, there has to be another seal around that, which is a chosam above that. Ainu pchinos yadayim. That second seal is a bechina of hands. If you remember, the first chosam is called raglan, it's called legs. That's the first chosam. The second chosam is yadayim, is the hands. The hands denote two different realities: to give and to receive. The job of the yadayim over here is to represent hands which are open to receive. When Moshe Rabbeinu was standing there during Mechelek HaMolech, his hands were open in tefillah. His hands were open to receive. If you are coming with fisted hands, you are not able to receive. It's only when you open your hands, and it's only when you are cupping them, and obviously even more so when you're putting them together, you're creating a reality, a kli, a vessel in which something can be put in, right? So here we're talking about the second chosam is the yadayim. That's the ability, the willingness to receive the musar, the rebuke of the limudei Hashem. That's by us, by Am Yisrael. In other words, in order for the entire process to work, in other words, for these mochichim to go to Kodesh Baruch Hu and appease him, come down to us, rebuke us, and bring us close to Kodesh Baruch Hu and maintain that connection, we have to have the ability to receive the rebuke. If we don't have the yadayim, if we don't have the hands, they'll come to us, did something. Oh yeah, what about you? In other words, if you don't have the hands, you don't have the capacity to receive the rebuke. I mean, the whole thing doesn't work. So they said the second seal is the yadayim that receive, to receive the mussar from these rebukers, from these admonishers. B'fchinas, it is said in Iyov, it says ubiyad kol odom yachtoin, and in the hand of every single person, Kadosh Baruch Hu will seal the verdict. Now, there are many meanings to that particular pasuk. Uviyad kol odom yachtoin. We are in Elul. We are approaching Rosh Hashanah. What we're saying, biyad kol odom yachtoin, as we say in Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, means that as Baal Shem Tov said, that when there is law leinu, a judgment over a person in this world, says they ask everybody to be maskim on this, including that person himself. But of course, Rabbeinu says, if you ask him, if you did this, what do you think the judgment should be? A person said, maybe you should give it, in a stern talking to him, just like someone saying, listen, what you did, somebody should come to me and say, listen, what you did? Not funny. Let it go, with a caution. So they don't tell a person, this is what you did. They say it about somebody else. Ploni Almoni did so-and-so. What do you think should be his judgment? What do you think should be his verdict? And really, they're asking you about you. The person doesn't know that he's being asked about him. And he expresses a judgment, and that becomes his own judgment. Biyad kol odom yachson, every single person seals his own verdict. That's one parish of this particular pasuk. Rabbeinu says here, biyad kol odom, in the hand of all odom, when the hand is proper, the hand is open to receive the rebuke of the mochich hador, that becomes another chayson. That becomes an extra protection, an extra deflector shield around the inner seal, as it were. Okay, so what are these yadayim? What is the thing that gives the capacity to receive rebuke? What do I do? I mean, do I go to Yesh or to Shefashuk or Osha'ad and buy myself some yadayim? What do I do? So the answer is vayadayim. These hands as a pchinas emuno. The pchinas of the yadayim is pchinas emuno. You have to have emunah, and with the emunah, you can receive the rebuke. Because they say, "Kasher diber Hashem yad Moshe." Kasher diber Hashem yad Moshe. Hashem spoke with the hand of Moshe. What's the pshat? So the remez is that these dibur that really go in, they are really received in the yadayim. The yadayim is emuno. It says about biyad Moshe v'hi yodav emuno. This yadayim is emuno. The person have emuno in the tzaddikim, in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, he receives their words of Musa. He takes it to heart, and it changes his behavior. Becomes so, and this becomes another protection seal around the inner seal, and it prevents the chitzonium, sitra achra, from plugging in to the verdict, the judgment, and it prevents it from the judgment becoming a harsh judgment, a cruel judgment, and from ruining the peace and wreaking havoc in the world. And this emunah that we're talking about is it's called emunus Yisrael. What's the pshat emunus Yisrael? Emunus Yisrael is everybody is commanded to believe in Hashem, even the goyim. But the emunah that we are supposed to receive here, as you'll see, there's a certain place where you get this emunah. Is a special kind of emunah. It's an emunah that the goyim are not commanded to have this kind of faith. The faith that Israel has, the way it's professed in the 13 principles of Judaism, as expressed by the Rambam. It says, Likutey Moharan is the Melech, and he controls everything that he did, does, and will do everything which is done. In other words, the goyim are commanded to have a basic emunah that there's Hashem. They have halacha, they're not allowed to din avodah zarah. They believe there's Hashem, there's judgment and everything. But to believe that every single thing that happens to us, and every single thing that happens to me, everything that happened to me from the day I was born until now, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. This is the kind of emunah that only Jews are commanded on, are ordered to have. The goyim don't have to have this kind of emunah. This kind of emunah is emunah that enables us to block out the things that interfere with receiving a rebuke from the Chacham. I gave an example before. If you don't have emunah, somebody comes to you and says, "Listen, you did wrong." He says, "Yeah, what about you?" Like who says, who the heck are you to tell me what to do? All this, why would somebody say something like this? It's because there's an ego in the way. What do you mean to say that I'm not good? When you're telling me that I did something bad, you're basically telling me that I'm not good. Who the heck are you to tell me that I'm not good? Maybe you're not good. Something, you're not good. I'm good, you're not good. I'm not crazy, you're crazy. When you don't believe that everything that happens to you is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's very easy for the Yetzer Hara to come in, for the ego to come in, and to say, I don't want to hear anything from you. But the minute that you believe that everything that happens to you and everything that tzaddikim tell you, everything is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when you have this kind of emunah, you're open, you're saying, listen, ultimately, if he's right or wrong, if he himself is better than me or not, is really neither here nor there. After everything is said and done, it's only me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It doesn't matter whether this guy's a nice guy or this guy is just a know-it-all, that a goody two-shoes, that tells me something because it makes him feel superior. But said that I don't care. It doesn't matter whether it makes him feel superior or not. The main thing is he right or is he wrong? If he's right, I really should fix my behavior. If he's wrong, then okay, fine, so he said. But in order for me to be open to that possibility, is I have to believe that everything is a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything that happens to me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. My reality is a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There is Olam Haba. There is Olam Haba. This is just the preface to the real show. That kind of emunah is Yadayim. That kind of emunah is a thing that enables you to be open to criticism, open to correction, because you have emunah. Now Rabbeinu says, listen, this particular seal needs an extra shmira, protection, so it doesn't get corrupted. Because this emunah is the base of everything. If this emunah gets corrupted, it's goodbye, Charlie. Might as well stick a fork in the person, he's done. It's finished. When the outer seal is breached, then Sitracha can have access and plug into the inner chosam. Because when the emunah is corrupted, the chosam achitzon, the outer protection, is breached. They can get to the inner chosam. And if the inner chosam, the evil generation happens to be on a very, very high level, it's just a question of the inner chosam can be breached as well, very, very quickly. That's why keeping the outside chosam is so critical. The emunah has to be, the chosam, the outer chosam has to be so critical that it should be complete. That once it's breached, chas v'shalom, and the evil generation, overcomes, chas v'chalila, the chosam aplimi can be breached as well. And if that happened, this is all she wrote. And there is another reason to why this particular chosam has to be preserved, and that is something which hopefully we will do Mitzvah Hashem next Thursday. Now, I don't know when I'm going to Uman. I hope to go to Uman next week. If I'm going to Uman next week, we can have the shir on Zoom from Uman. That shouldn't be a problem. Bezat Hashem. But let's just talk a little bit, just in case things don't work out. Let's just talk a little bit about that particular nekuda, what it is that we are going for. This entire Elul, this entire month of Elul, is all about emunah. It's all about emunah. Kodesh Baruch Hu is coming. Melech Basada, Kodesh Baruch Hu is in the field. We can reach him, and we want to do tshuva. And when Rosh Hashanah comes, we make a Kodesh Baruch Hu Melech. That's the establishment of the Malchus Kodesh Baruch Hu in the world. Malchus is emunah. Everything is all about emunah. The thing that we need to ask the most during the month of Elul is emunah. It's very easy just to pass the month of Elul, yeah, of course, no. Of course, do tshuva, everything. But really, okay. Rosh Hashanah, okay, this is Hashanah, whatever it is. Let's make Kiddush, thought Kiddush Shofar, go out, smoke a cigarette. No big deal. Rabbeinu says when there could be two people sitting in Gan Eden, one of them has all the 310 universes, and one feels absolutely nothing. Because it's all in the heart. When the heart is open, when the emunah is complete, you can feel all the Gan Eden. You can feel, what's at stake. There's a judgment day. If the heart is closed, the heart of stone, what can you do? You don't feel anything. And I just finish with this mashal that I give, that is it says Rosh Hashanah, blowing the shofar, and we sort of like, maybe yes, maybe no more, Yom Kippur even more. We say that we sort of mumble our Chatam because the Tia Shofar is to confuse the Samech Mem. So he will be worried about himself and not be worried about us. And it says as follows. What does it mean? That he will hear the Tkiya of the Shofar and he will think that that's the Shofar of Mashiach. Well, it's Shofar of Mashiach, that means the end of Sitra Achra. It's going to be shechted. He'll be so perplexed, so discombobulated that he will leave us alone, from advocating against us for that period of time. And to be honest, for a long time, I didn't say any of this because it's rather embarrassing to have this kind of thought. But I thought to myself, it sounds a little bit childish, doesn't it? Samech Mem, he thinks it's Shefa Mashiach. What is it? I mean, I know it's not the Shefa Mashiach. Everybody knows he doesn't know the Shefa Mashiach. He gets all discombobulated. Since there are already thousands of years of Tkiyas Shofar and everything so why should we get discombobulated? And then one year I understood it. When a person goes to have some kind of a checkup and the doctor says, listen, I want you to go, a person who plays that person, I want that person to go and have a CT of his brain, of his lungs, or whatever it is. Or an extra blood test. I don't like the results, do another one. The person gets all, is quivering. It's quivering, fears. What would the results be? What are you afraid of? Not the first test you ever took in your life. So the first blood test, then everything always came out fine. What's the problem? The answer is that every person knows that ultimately there's going to be one blood test or one whatever checkup. It's going to come back, then it's not going to be good. Seriously not good. So the fact that we know that ultimately there will be, maybe that's the one. So we're quivering, we're shaking until we get the results. Okay, it's been done, everything is okay. The Samech Mem gets confused with Kriyas Shofar, not because he's silly, but the opposite. He's much smarter than all of us. He knows that one day the Kriyas Shofar is going to be that of Mashiach. That's going to be his end. Maybe that's the one. The fact that there were already thousands of Kriyas Shofar in all those millenniums that he didn't come doesn't make his chashash lesser. Fakir. It gets closer to the final one. He gets more scared. That's what we need to understand when we go into Rosh Hashanah. We're going to, the CT scan of all CT scans. Because Baruch Hu sees everything. But it's also a CT scan that we can determine the results before the scan. This is what we have Elul. Hashem will bless us all with Ksila Chsima Tova. We shall have a good Geben Shtior, a really good year. And Zat Hashem, you should have a good Shabbos. And Zat Hashem, I hope to see you Motzei Shabbos and Sichas Aran. And have a fantastic evening.